Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace, and I am here to do the weekly check-in with you guys live here on my channel. I'm also going to be talking about this new moon that we have coming in Aries. That's like my theme for this week, on top of kind of the buildup of the transits that we've been dealing with for like the past week or two. So today is April 9th, 2018. Those of you guys who were with me last week, I think you remember me kind of discussing how we are kind of in the middle of a lot of astrological warfare. I think that sounds pretty appropriate. So all these planets that have been meeting up in Capricorn since the beginning of the month, squaring off with all of the planets in feisty Aries, is really bringing us to terms with where that Saturn is in our life, or where we need to be making some major strides and building something a little bit bigger, better, stronger. So those of you guys who have made it this far, it's pretty safe to say the past couple of days have probably been colorful and a lot of power struggles. Hi, everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. Okay, so kind of a little bit coming off of like last week, like I said, we're coming up to this new moon in Aries, and it's going to be showing up for us on or around, sorry, I'm kind of looking at multiple screens here, on or around, it's going to be April 15th, 2018 at 6:57 p.m. and that's Pacific time, so that's 9:57 p.m. Eastern. So you want to check your time zones and you want to adjust accordingly. So let's backtrack a little bit. Whatever has come up for you guys really since the 1st of April is just to show you where we need to be confronting a certain issue in our life. So anytime we're having a new moon, it's new seeds, new intentions, new beginnings, but it also has to do with ourselves. So this is a really nice time to be having this reality check between now and the 15th with ourselves, and kind of checking in and seeing where and how we're progressing along. Yeah, somebody just said it's been a doozy the past couple of months. It certainly has. Things are going to stabilize a little bit, I actually think, after April. So if you guys stay tuned, when we get towards the end of this discussion, I'm going to do the wrap-ups and the predictions for all 12 horoscopes for the Zodiac. So you guys will want to listen in to your rising, your sun, and your moon predictions. But I'm going to do the kind of the overview first. So like I said, yeah, April 15th. In the evening is when this new moon hits, and this is the build up to what will be happening later this month. And so if you guys check in with me on Mondays, you'll see a little bit more of what's going on with that next week. Some people are saying they're moving. Some people are saying they're looking for new places. Certainly Capricorn has to do with an overhaul somewhere specifically in our life, but this is the continuation of me saying this is not butterflies and rainbows. I think probably it's been intense for the past couple days, but the new moon is very fascinating to me because it's conjunct Uranus. So especially in Aries, we've seen this kind of chaos that's been happening for like the past 2 years, where there's been a lot of intensity globally in regards to the threat or the feelings of whether or not there's going to be eruptions between already tense relationships that we have in other countries. But you're going to see this progress over the next couple of days. And I mentioned this in my last video, talking about what was going on in Syria, and even more recently, what we've been having, the biochemical warfare that's going on, and whether or not the United States are going to step in and get involved in between Syria and what's going on with Russia, and playing the blame game. And certainly the next 48 hours are going to be very interesting to see what happens, because all of the planets are squaring off in Capricorn. So it's whether or not world organizations and governments or rulers are going to be getting involved and you know, helping put an end to what's going on. So stay tuned for that between now and the 15th for things to get kind of colorful in that regard. But this moon is certainly very much expect the unexpected. And part of that is because Uranus is involved. So a lot of people are calling this a gambler's moon due to its conjunction to Uranus, and not really being able to predict what's coming and what's showing up. Also, you know, we have quite a few planets still in cardinal signs. So if you have any planets on or around 26 degrees of Aries, it's certainly a time to be checking in and paying attention. If you have any planets on or around like that 24 to 28 degrees of a cardinal sign, so that would be Libra, Aries, Capricorn, or Cancer, you especially want to be paying attention because it's going to be triggering some cardinal squares in your chart. But, you know, just a little bit off the top, and I'll show you guys the chart in just a second. We do have Saturn and Mars and Pluto all in Capricorn. And so I think a lot of this, what it's having to do is with authority figures and how authority figures are showing themselves in our lives. When I think of Capricorn, I think of police, actually, and police departments and governments. And so I think what we're really starting to tune into and look at and what you want to pay attention to is where there are themes coming up in the mainstream media where we're seeing issues with protest, continuing issues with police brutality, continuing issues with civil unrest in regards to our relationships with other countries and what's going on in other countries. And then we have the sun in Aries at the time of the new moon, so the sun and the moon, that are also going to be making a square to Pluto in Capricorn. Now it is within like a 7 or an 8 degrees, but this is really what we're looking for, where whatever explosive events are happening around April 15th is creating some major movement at the end of this month. And so it doesn't just have to be happening on a world level. It's also wherever we may find ourselves being too explosive or too reactionary or too unpredictable. And once again, it's a gambler's moon. So you're kind of taking some chances here and coming up against some other planets that could really hold you accountable later in the month. So we want to practice patience. With the moon in Aries, I think this is also talking about emotional, you know, being emotionally volatile, not just like, you know, externally, like what we see with the sun, but a lot of people are coming to terms and kind of realizing what their personal boundaries are for themselves around the 15th and where they need to be voicing these boundaries. And it's safe to say that things do get a little bit more clear on and around the time of the new moon because Mercury will be going direct. So we're no longer going to have Mercury in a retrograde. It will go direct on the 15th. However, we still are in a Mercury shadow. So you may still see similar themes of things coming back up that started last month. It doesn't necessarily mean it's completely wrapped up. It just means that maybe we'll be able to communicate a little bit more effectively or have some better understanding after Mercury turning inward for the past several weeks. And we've had an opportunity to reflect on our own personal intentions and what we're doing for ourselves. This is a theme where with any Aries new moon, the intentions are being self-aware, being self-motivated, creating change. And at the times of squares with cardinal planets, I feel like if we aren't taking initiative during this new moon, then we're going to see things just start naturally unfolding at the end of the month. So it's kind of like you have a choice to do it now, or you can kind of get sideswiped later in the month and have things blow up that maybe potentially we're not paying attention to, or we're not doing the work that we're supposed to be doing. Venus is traveling currently in Taurus, and it's going to be making some trines also to Mars and Capricorn. So regardless of the chaos that's going on, there is some method to the madness. It's happening really to, you know, be able to help us create stronger foundations in our lives, both financially, but also in terms of relationships. So there is a bigger plan here where the truth is that being very much unconditional and standing in your truth and not trying to get reactions out of people and doing things out of love is really going to get us a lot further. We'll be seeing that there is a very nice trine with Jupiter and Scorpio still making some aspects to Neptune. So certainly there is some kind of mystical side to things, or there is a higher power at force here. There is a sense of tuning into where maybe perhaps we are afraid to being vulnerable, where we are afraid of being in love, and we're seeking more Neptunian type, you know, practices at the time of the new moon, you know, sound, music, healing, working with water, working with baths, which is kind of interesting because so many planets are in Aries. It's more of a fire moon, but we're seeing so much stuff that's playing off with Capricorn that if you have fire and you have earth, the answer might actually be water. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But and as I've talked in my past videos before, Chiron is still at that teetering point of 29 degrees of Pisces. And so that is the crisis point and the last degree of the zodiac. So many of us are still working through some karmic, struggles, or we may be feeling more in tune to where we are hurting on a more personal level. It's a reflection of what's going on in the collective consciousness all over, where, our neighbors feel it, our coworkers feel it, our partners feel it, and we're working through this together. So there is a lot of shared karma, a lot of shared emotions. There are aspects to this moon that does make me feel like everybody is getting to this boiling point where there are certain topics in our lives where we are having to take initiative and take responsibility rather than having things force us into being held accountable. I think you're going to see a lot more stuff that's going to go on with protest and especially stuff in regards to gun control. Certainly, I think that there is a lot of explosive energy and quite honestly explosive situations that are happening as a result of Uranus and Aries. And so we're kind of coming off of this ride of having so much going on with the school shootings in the recent months and, weeks in America, and everything that has transpired with the movements of, people wanting to still continue to have the right to bear arms. Anytime we have anything in Libra or Aries, there's always this theme of, what rights we have as an individual versus what's actually legal. And so one thing that I think that you're going to see that's going to take place is that individuals are going to start rising up a little bit more in the next month in regards to their own personal rights, be that legal or the rights to bear arms. And so I think that we're going to see a continuation of protests going on for gun reform and how we're deciding to handle those situations. With Aries, new moons, it's important to be assertive. It's very important to be self-aware and to not be reactionary. I mean, even just going out and leaving and like being around town, I've noticed like the past like week and a half, you have like a lot of very aggressive drivers. You have a lot of very angry people. And I think part of that is just these cardinal squares that are happening right now in Capricorn, where there's a lot of wanting to one up people or getting very aggravated or getting reactionary. And so kind of falling off of what I said last week, where you really want to be an actor and not a reactor. Let me go ahead and pull up this chart for you guys. Give me 1 second here. Because I want to show it to you. But sometimes I've noticed I have some issues when I do my screen sharing. So give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. So we've got this new moon in Aries. And a lot of the themes I just went over, but I'll kind of go at it again and see what you guys have to say. But look at this gang of planets here that are now all conjunct in Capricorn: Saturn, Mars, and Pluto. Saturn and Mars are a little bit closer, but certainly still that one's smack dab in the middle. Making some aspects here to Venus, making some aspects here also, especially Pluto, building into a square with some of these planets. And so what I want you guys to really pay attention to, in all honesty, is going to be where you are looking to diffuse situations, because you've had a solid week here to see things that could pop up in your life that are potentially holding you back or creating some, some frustrations. And then with this new moon, we have the opportunity to set new intentions to move forward in a less combative way. And you'll see this play out later at the end of the month, because Mars is going to be moving further and further through Capricorn. And as it gets closer to Pluto and in the later degrees of Capricorn to square off with Uranus at the end of this month and next month. So once again, it's about accountability, how we are setting these intentions and holding ourselves accountable for creating the change that we want to see in the world. It can be really challenging doing this and staying grounded at a time where there is just a lot of very intense energy around us. And so what I've been talking to a lot of clients about is find something productive to do with this energy, especially if you're becoming more conscious and aware of where Capricorn is in your chart. Maybe you're learning astrology. Capricorn is very much associated with getting a higher vantage point. So many of you guys may be opting to go hiking, especially places in in and around your area that are starting to feel more like spring and summer, you know, go for a hike, go to a top of a mountain, meditate, focus on, you know, staying grounded. You know, some of you guys, it's working with the element of earth. So that's working with crystals, working with gardening, doing yoga, you know, strengthening your bones, strengthening your back, becoming better rooted in your career or maybe in your home. The other thing that I'm taking a look at is that we are building into what's going to be coming very soon is a Mars retrograde. And so this is in a couple months during the summertime, but the retrograde is going to follow the South Node in Aquarius. And so what that tells me is that there's going to be changes that are going on within government structures. And part of that's because Saturn's in Capricorn. But a lot of what's happening right now is going to be coming back in about 2 or 3 months. And I know I talked to you guys about doing America's chart. The truth is that there's a lot more of me going a little bit deeper and really honing in on some specific topics that I want to talk about, but that's going to come out this week. But this moon in particular is going to be particularly a doozy for America because it's squaring off with a lot of the planets that we have in America's natal chart in Capricorn and in Cancer. So stay tuned for that this week because I'm going to be talking about that a little bit more. The other thing that we're really focusing on still here is the fact that, you know, this North Node is in Leo. And so it's requiring us to really tune in to our own heart space, when, where, and how we are supposed to be doing things from a more heart-centered type of situation. And so what's nice is that once Mercury is now stationed direct and it starts moving forward, we are actually going to see some really nice aspects from Mercury coming back and making trines to the North Node and really allowing us to receive those messages and project them out into the world. Somebody asked questions about when the nodes are changing. They're going to be changing in the fall. You want to be paying attention to, I believe, October, November. I'll look at that in a second and I can tell you, but they're definitely, the North Node's moving into Cancer and the South Node is moving into Capricorn. Now, much is going to happen before the actual nodes change. In fact, we are going to be having an eclipse around July 12th, I believe. That's going to be in Cancer. So we're actually going to start experiencing the themes of the North Node moving into Cancer as early as summer. We're not going to have to wait until the nodes physically change in the fall. Okay, so let me go ahead and switch this over here. That way you can see me again. There we go. Besides that, looking at my notes, I want to get more into what's happening for the specific 12 signs because, like I said, there is a bit of a conflict between Aries and Capricorn this month. And so it's going to be falling in a particular place for everybody in their particular charts. So whenever you listen to my predictions in terms of the astrology and the tarot, you want to be listening for your sun sign as well as your rising sign. If you don't know that information, I highly suggest you go and plug in your birth time, date, and location into a birth chart calculator. And you want to look for the ascendant or the rising and the sun to get the most out of these predictions. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with Aries. So Aries is going to be the first that I'm going to be giving you guys predictions for. And so Aries, this new moon is taking place in your first house. And obviously there's going to be some kind of conflict that's going to be happening between now and the next 2 weeks between your first house and your 10th house, which is yourself and what you're doing versus your superiors, your bosses, your career. Sometimes it's even older family members in your life and kind of trying to figure out how to find a balance between the two. So for you guys, like I said, the 1st and the 10th is where you're going to be having the conflict. So let's take a look at what you need to be focusing on. From an intuitive level, I feel like for Aries, this is also setting the intention for like really being able to master something. It may have to do with the relationship with your physical body and your physical routine, what you feel like you need to be doing for yourself versus what other people expect from you. So it's about finding that happy medium and finding a balance in between. Yeah, so it can definitely be for your moon sign as well. Remember that if you're listening to the predictions for the moon sign, then it's definitely going to be more on an emotional level. So it may not play out as physically as some of the predictions, but it will play out more on an emotional level. And certainly for Aries moons, there's a lot of them trying to find this balance in the chaos right now between what's expected of them and what they need to be doing for themselves. All right, so let's take a look at the cards that come up for you guys. So the first thing I get is the Nine of Swords, the Four of Swords, and then the King of Swords. The King of Swords is upright. So what's really interesting about this is that there seems to be something that Aries is having anxiety about, something that they're putting off, something that it's almost like you don't want to have the conversation, you don't want to have the discussion, you've been afraid of having this conversation with somebody, being afraid of speaking your piece and really feeling like, okay, if I say something, this person's going to take it the wrong way, they're going to take it, you know, they're going to misunderstand, there's going to be something that's going to happen in terms of the message being received. And so I could see this definitely being true on an emotional level, where if there's a conversation you've been waiting to have, but you're afraid to have it, I would actually say wait a little bit longer, because the Four of Swords is kind of like talking about sleeping on something or sitting on something first before you kind of voice your piece. There's more information that's going to be coming. Sometimes when I see the Nine of Swords coming up with the Four of Swords, it's an indication of anxiety. So it's almost like you can create such an anxiety-driven situation that you're spooking yourself and you're setting yourself up for something to blow up in your face. This is especially true for any Aries placement, because I think that Uranus is really tuning you into your intuition. So you have to be careful, because you might be manifesting the thing that you're the most afraid of. So if you're putting off having a conversation, you know, I wouldn't give it longer than, 4 weeks before you really have to have this conversation with somebody. And if you're afraid of how you're coming across, what I would say is like, give it a little bit more time and sit on it, because there's going to be more opportunities for the next week or so for things to come up, for issues to present themselves. So you may have a little bit more clarity and be able to communicate on a much more direct level. So you actually have situations that you have noted or you've paid attention to. So you can be like, I have this, this, and this that's happened. And this is what's working for me, and this is what's not working for me. So especially for Aries, this can be a little bit more of a challenging time, because there is a sense of wanting to define yourself and your needs versus what other people are asking you for. So instead of doing it in a very reactionary way, sleep on it a little bit longer. Just don't wait too long, because I still do feel like, something can be happening towards the end of the month that makes you feel like you're on your own. And part of that is the Pluto, Mars, Saturn kind of in your 10th house that's playing out, where you feel like maybe, you're giving away your power too much to people. And so you're really going to have to define your boundaries and your lines at that point. So don't wait too long to have this conversation, Aries, okay? Don't get sucked into the power struggles. All right, so moving on to Taurus. Taurus, this is your 12th house, so you're having conflict between your 12th house and your 9th house. Certainly what I think a lot of this is actually really about is you're having some major epiphanies and understandings about how you've been taught things work in the world versus what you're realizing is reality. So when I think of the 9th house, I think of our connection to God. I think of foreign travel. I think of spirituality. And certainly with Uranus going through your 12th house, it's very possible that you're tuning into and becoming very aware to certain dreams. And so when Uranus goes through the 12th house, or for those of you guys have a natal Uranus 12th house placement, more so than not, these people have very, very significant dreams. Things that might be precognitive, things that are coming from the future. You might start tapping into things and downloading into things like you never have before, and it can be a little bit startling. So one thing that I would say is those of you guys who have a Taurus rising, more so than the sun, you might be noticing that there is some radical changes going on this month. It might be a really good time to go and tune in and spend some time with a mentor, or go and seek somebody who can help you deal with this energy and navigate it a little bit better. You may be finding that you're having some conflicts in regards to your belief system, or even to your religion. There could be some things that are coming up that are making you start to realize like, wow, maybe there's a little bit more going on here than what I've been believing or what I've been studying. And all of a sudden now your belief system, your spirituality is expanding. So there's something that's going on a very psychological level that's at conflict with what you have known in the past. And so things are changing. So what I would say is, if you need a teacher, go and seek it. If you need to take a class, if you want to take a meditation class, if you feel like you need to go and find a mentor, all of these things are really great for you. It's also a month where you may be needing a little bit more TLC and some downtime than usual. So if that's the case, I encourage you to really pay attention to your sleep schedules and make sure that you're taking the time and the rest that you need, and that you're not totally overpowering yourself with just being out and about all the time. The 9th house and the 12th house are also associated with, like, I see it as like rest and also travel. So you might be setting some intentions in the future to be going on a trip and to be doing something to relax. But like right now, there's just too much stuff, whether it's school or other things that are kind of holding you back. Pay more attention to what's happening after about a 6-month period, because I believe that it's going to become a little bit easier for you to be able to travel. Okay. So let's see what's going on for Taurus. Okay. So the cards that I get are 4 of Wands, 5 of Wands, and the Empress. And so this is kind of interesting because I think this is talking about like not fighting something, like going to a group gathering or going to something and doing something that's more self-nurturing or something that's more for you. And so I think that if you are going to be spending any crazy amount of time out doing something, it almost needs to be like a retreat, or you going away, or you going and doing something by yourself and taking time for yourself. Remember that the Empress is ruled by Venus. And so it's all about what's going on with your health and what's going on with your state of mind, and how you're carrying yourself and how you feel about yourself. It might be more time for some TLC. I don't really see this as being a really social time. I kind of feel it as if you are going to go out, you're going out with a purpose, and you're coming together with groups of people who are going to share your purpose, because you may be a little bit more drained than usual right now, like I said. So I don't really see you overly extending yourself socially. If you get invited to a group event, especially if it's a group event revolving around self-nurturing, or if you want to go to like a very short retreat weekend or something like that, that can be really good for you, because I just don't see your energy being hyperactive this month. I see you having to take it a little bit more easy, but there may be some kind of an invitation to a group gathering. That 4 of Wands can also have to do with music or live music or something that has to do with joining together with other people, but it's not chaotic. I mean, that 5 of Wands reversed is kind of saying like it's not combative. It's something that's very calm and very collected. So it's not like a concert. It's more like going to a sound bath or doing something that involves like the spiritual realm. All right, so for Gemini, you're looking for conflict between your 11th and your 8th house. So this new moon is in your 11th house. It can be a time where you're taking it upon yourself to go and meet new people and create new social networks and be making new friends and doing things on your own. The conflict between the 8th house is realistically, you know, what's keeping you from being social. Many people with Gemini risings, I'm seeing a lot of stuff that's going on where they're having some major shifts in their finances, or they're having some major shifts in terms of actually physically being able to be available. And as we know, you know, the 8th house has to do very much with like, you know, the money that we need, or the money that comes in from a partner, or, you know, our funds that come in through other people more easily. So if there's conflict between the 8th and the 11th house, it's very possible that there's some kind of limitation for what you can spend right now, or like literal like time limitation that you just may not quite have it in you. But you're maybe setting the intentions to get back into the social realm. You may be finding that there is a new opportunity. You can take it upon yourself to reignite a friendship or a relationship from the past. You know, I think that the 8th house has to do with karma. So when you're seeing these squares from the 11th house, if you're a Gemini or a Gemini rising that's had conflict with a friend, or you feel like you've fallen apart from a friendship, it might be a good time to kind of address those issues and take a look at it and take the initiative to not be so stubborn, and maybe try to like reopen that friendship and see how it can go. It might also be a time where you've let go of certain friends and certain aspects in your life socially that aren't serving you. So you're looking for like deeper connections, and you might just be noticing that you're going through your you know, your list of friendships and kind of just looking at everybody and reevaluating who is and who is not in your corner. Interesting that these cards are coming up, because it's kind of a combination of what I was saying. So the card that I get is the Lovers card, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Ace of Wands. So that's also kind of talking about like what potential connections the Lovers, Gemini, has to somebody karmically or energetically. This can also be like a lot of sexual energy. So it's like the whole like Gemini, are we friends or are we lovers? Like, are we friends or are we more than that? So there may be an opportunity for a friendship to potentially shift, or to have to need to address whether or not you're interested in taking the next step, or saying to that person, you know, I feel a little bit more strongly, and oh my gosh, there's this thing that's happening and now I'm feeling like there's more here. So it might be a time where this is becoming more conscious and aware. You may be becoming more conscious and aware of this. It can also catch you off guard, because I feel like the Ace of Wands is like sudden and unexpected. So you could have a friend that could suddenly, you know, come across in that way, or who may talk to you about it. So I think that the Wheel of Fortune is always turning. When it's coming up with the Lovers card, it's also about having options, and maybe Gemini is becoming newly enticed and fascinated with a new potential person, and you're taking it easy as a friendship first and seeing how it goes. But you know, as far as I'm concerned, this is some very unexpected potential karmic encounters that you're having this month, Gemini. So do pay attention to who comes around. All right, so let's move on to Cancer. So Cancer, this is your 10th house. So you're setting new seeds in regards to your career. There is a bit of a conflict between your 10th and your 7th house. So I've talked to a lot of Cancers recently who have a lot of really high, you know, career goals. And then they've also got all of these woes in regards to their romantic life. And that's very much this transit where you're seeing the conflict is between your 7th house of your relationship partners. And so this will play out one of a couple different ways, Cancer. Number one, it's going to be like the conflict that you have with commitment in relationships versus your career, and having this balancing act, or wondering if you can have the relationship that you want on top of making the career moves. It also may be that some of you guys are realizing if you want to get where you want to go, you may have to be, you know, kind of proceeding on for who you have been working for, the people who you have been with in the past. So the 7th house is business partners. It's also romantic partners. So you might be taking a look at, you know, are these the people who I really want to be with long term? Or do I feel like a partner is being supportive of my career choices, or the fact that I'm super dedicated and working long hours to get to where I want to go with my career? Or is my partner giving me some slack for it and kind of giving me a hard time? So that's the conflict that we're seeing this month. On a more intuitive level, I actually feel like it's going to be a lot more about you having fear around potentially leaving career partners or leaving a job, because it's like you want to climb that ladder, or you want to get the success that you want, but you're having a hard time leaving what's familiar. And so what I would say to you is like, now is really a time to start looking at what's going on, and whether or not your business partner or your romantic partner is going to stay with you long term, or if you feel like, you know, they're not sharing the same career goals as you. If you're a super ambitious Cancer and you're with a partner who all they want to do is just be in the relationship, it may be comforting, but it may not be best for you long term, because it's not pushing you to grow. So I really want you to pay attention to that. Let's pull a couple cards and see what comes up. Off the bat, first thing I get is 10 of Pentacles. 10 of Wands, Ace of Cups reversed. So, okay, so here's the deal, Cancer. If you are in a relationship with someone that is not being as supportive or understanding of your career goals right now, yes, it may be time to reevaluate this relationship and decide if it's the best for you. Same thing goes for business partners or for bosses. If you're feeling like you're not getting the emotional and financial fulfillment at the position that you're in, then it's time to really start thinking about expanding and branching out and going somewhere new. Remember that the conflict's going to play out for you later this month in your 10th house. So if that's what's happening, and you're starting to see that, you know, a partner isn't happy with your performance, or you're not happy with someone who you're with, and you guys avoid this conflict now, it can come back up again the end of the month, and there still may very well be changes with your relationships. And so I see like the 10 of Wands and the Ace of Cups reversed is kind of an emotional overhaul, where even if this is a business relationship or a job, if it's like emotionally super distressing and it's not exactly what you want to be doing, then you may be making some major moves. And this is also an indication that like things are really coming into fruition later in the year for you. So if you are supposed to be achieving new goals in relationships or within your professional life, then you got to kind of make these changes now. You know, it's challenging to have a bunch of planets in Capricorn for Cancers, because it almost seems like the world's against you. But the truth is that what you really need is security. So all these planets are just teaching you where you need need to go and get the security on your own rather than running and hiding. Ace of Cups reversed is also just, you know, the cup spilling over, or the cup falling over, and kind of realizing that you may not have everything that you thought you had, and it might be kind of just time to rebalance those scales and perhaps look elsewhere for somebody who might be more emotionally understanding to what you've got going on. All right, so moving on to Leo, this is your 9th house. So for Leos, the conflict is between your 9th house and the 6th house. And basically what this comes down to for me is like, you know, getting everything that you need to get done so that way you can go and play, or, you know, that way you can set these intentions. It's like many Leos are still in the process of making a lot of career changes, is what I've seen. And the 6th house is where the conflict is this month. And for you guys, that's like your day-to-day routine, or your health, or where you're working, or coworkers. So some of you guys might be trying to, you know, plan out the rest of your year and finding a time when you can go and get new classes, or be doing things to kind of be improving your work performance skills, or improving all the tools that you have in your toolbox professionally, and trying to find time to get this all done, or trying to find time to do something a little bit more fun and a little bit more cut loose. This is also a time for Leos who are looking to get a little bit more in better health, whether you're looking for a trainer or a dietitian, or you're looking for somebody to help you get better organized around the house. This is something that I would seriously consider. You might even be noticing that there is a need for there to be some kind of reorganization or something that's going on in the workspace. You might be having people who are coming in who are doing evaluations or making changes in the workspace, so be aware of that. So let's take a look at what comes up for Leo. It's interesting because it seems to me like you guys are going to probably have a little bit more changes going on in regard to either work or what's going on with your career. So what I'm kind of seeing is like, if there is some conflict in the workspace, or if you are feeling like somebody is overstepping their bounds or kind of patrolling you, there is opportunity for there to be conflict. I would say try to avoid that at all costs. Find constructive ways to use this energy, which is, I think, putting it more so into physical activity and making changes in your diet, your daily routine, or making time for you to have some peace and some alone time, if at all possible. That, you know, new moon in your 9th house is like, okay, things are really crazy now, and I know that if I continue on this path for another 3 months, I'm going to lose it. So I need to schedule some time off, or I need to schedule and take the initiative to actually make time to go somewhere. What I am seeing also is that there is some mental emotional stress that's coming up for Leos, Leo rising. My recommendation for this is that you need to be practicing something to release all of this energy, something more in terms of like physical activity. What's actually coming up is the 8 of Wands. So this might be something that's more fire related, that's going to get your heart moving, and it's going to get you up and running. That's something that has initiative. So if you're setting some new goals in terms of what's going on with your physical activity, I would say, you know, maybe it is being like, okay, I'm going to go on a trip in 3 months, and that's going to get the ball rolling and kind of set some incentive for me to actually make some changes. If I want to start a new diet or a new workout routine, if I am going to be more focused on getting better organized and kind of getting my career on track, then, you know, set a goal. There needs to be a goal in mind for you this month to help you kind of get to where you want to go, so you can see the light at the outside of the tunnel. All right, so now we're going to move on to Virgo. Virgo, the conflict is between your 8th and your 5th house. So for Virgos, this is a new moon in your 8th house, and so it has to do with death, sex, and taxes, or at least that's what the cookbook Astrology says. But in your case, I think this is also about how you're taking a hold of your finances. I'm seeing a lot of Virgos and Virgo risings that are doing some careful analyzation of where their finances are at, or their debt ratio, taking a look at how they can be paying off credit cards or opening up new loans and finding ways to expand and make some shifts or create some shifts in their finances. I've seen quite a few people who are actually going and taking out loans and doing things to be able to make some changes, like in their overall financial health. So some of you guys might be seeking professionals. Others just might be opting to pay off some bills. Because the conflict is going to be between the 8th and the 5th house, it also comes down to your value to people who you're seeing and who you're kind of dating and spending time with. The 5th house has to do with matters of the heart and things that have to do with like dating and having fun and taking chances. So I see for Virgos, it's a lot more of like a sexual energy or being a little bit more open to getting into some romantic flings that might be leading to having a little bit more of a sex life in the next month or so, or meeting some more creative partners perhaps that you'll be spending the next 6 months with. So pay attention, because the 5th and the 8th house are very much connected to sex, but also connected to karma. So it's not abnormal for you to bring in some really intense karmic partners, or find that maybe you're dating a little bit more and you're noticing that you're spending a little bit more. So the 8th house is certainly also what we're spending and what we're capable of spending, but make sure that everything is in balance this month. Let's take a look at what comes up for Virgos. 2 of Pentacles. Ooh, the Hierophant and the Queen of Wands. And so for me, that's kind of also saying, like, if you're a woman, you may be tuning into this a little bit more intensely and becoming a little bit more playful and a little bit more sexual and a little bit more willing to take some chances in that realm. I also see the Hierophant as kind of like learning some lessons or being somebody who is very knowledgeable, or maybe getting some kind of dating advice from someone. For the men, the Queen of Wands could very well be a feisty fire energy that's showing up for you this month. I think the 2 of Pentacles is very much what I was talking about. It's just weighing things out and making sure that you're not spreading yourself too thin or getting too overly invested, and making sure things are in balance, taking your time, not rushing into something. But it's hard not to when you have so many planets in the 8th house. So have fun, Virgos, this month. All right, so now we're moving on to Libras. Libra, this is new moon that's in your 7th house, and it's conflict between your 7th and your 4th house. So for Libra and Libra rising, it's a lot of, new surprising shakeups in relationships, new opportunities to be partnering with other people, new opportunities to have changes in relationships, and how your relationship's shifting is changing your relationship with your home or your family. For some of you guys, it's changes in your relationship status, and deciding whether or not you guys are taking the next steps in relationships, i.e., moving in together, getting married, making long-term plans. And if they're not kind of down for that, then some of you guys are saying bye-bye to partnerships, while others are saying hello. So whenever you have a new moon in your 7th house, it's setting the tone for new relationships or new relationship standards for the next 6 months. Because it's playing off so much with your 4th house, it might be you kind of getting a temperature read on partners and deciding whether or not they're going to be a long-term potential. Or for those of you guys who are starting businesses or running businesses, you might be going through and deciding whether or not you're going to bring other people on board and if you emotionally trust them. So you'll see the same kind of theme playing out both ways. The cards that I'm getting for Libra and Libra rising: Queen of Coins, 7 of Pentacles, 8 of Pentacles. So you get what you pay for. It's basically saying also taking your time. And some of you guys are being very particular and really honing in on and identifying who you want to invest in. Time is money. Okay. So with the Queen of Coins, she's all about her security. She's all about the money she's bringing in, the money she's investing in her home, her health, her family. And when I see the 7 of Pentacles and the 8 of Pentacles preceding, it's kind of saying like you're planting seeds and seeing who or what might work for the long term. This is especially good for Libras who are business owners, or Libras who are bosses or managers. Pay close attention, because you're going to play a major role in deciding who's going to come in and work for you or work with you over the next couple of months. So with Uranus being there, you might meet some kooky or kind of crazy individuals who are kind of abnormal and out of the box, which I think is really good. But like, I'm a Libra rising, so I feel like I resonate with this. It's just kind of like, seeing who you're going to invest your time and your energy on, and setting new intentions for the partnerships moving forward. The people who are reliable and stable are going to be best. And that Queen of Pentacles could be somebody who is an older woman. This could also be somebody who's a mentor. This could be you spending money, or somebody coming and potentially giving you an offer or bringing you some kind of financial opportunity to grow further. So it looks pretty good for Libra risings. Moving on to Scorpio. So we have Scorpio, this is a new moon in your 6th house. So the conflict is between the 6th house and the 3rd house. And so what's really interesting for Scorpios is like, I feel like there's so much growth going on that you guys are having to really play catch up right now and kind of take a look at, okay, you know, what changes do I need to be making in terms of my communication, and how can I be communicating how I'm shifting so we can see other things kind of come into place. The 6th house has to do with your health, diet, nutrition, but when it's squaring off with the 3rd, it's like, how are you communicating? You really want to pay attention to your communication with other people this month and really make sure that there's no misunderstandings, because I could totally see that, you know, the 6th house can be kind of very particular energy, and the 3rd is how we're coming across to other people. So you want to be identifying also issues that may be happening with family members or siblings in regards to their health. That's something else that's really important that I kind of pick up on, where if you're starting to notice that a sibling's got something going on, you know, tune in, check in with them, make sure everything's okay. The 3rd house also has to do with short distance travel. So kind of playing off of some of the other signs earlier, there may be some conflict with actually creating time and being able to go and do something, or creating the time to take on something new. With Jupiter and Scorpio, many Scorpios are doing some research and kind of starting to teach themselves or go through programs to learn new things about some career moves that they're making. So sometimes it's just about having a jam-packed schedule and being able to communicate in advance to make sure that you're able to meet all of the needs this month. Let's take a look at what comes up for you guys. Okay, so here's what I'm seeing. So 7 of Wands came up with the Tower and the Judgment card. So 7 of Wands is about wanting to have higher perspective. The best thing I could say to Scorpios is don't pop off right now, because it looks like there's going to be some more things that are going to change. So you might make a schedule change. You might actually find out you have to make another change, and there can be some room for some disruption. I also see the Tower and the Judgment card is like finally walking away from things that don't serve you. So if you're kind of feeling like it's now really the time to just kind of, okay, maybe I'm not completely happy with where I'm working, I need to find something else, then it's identifying that. Don't forget that Jupiter is in your sign. So if you want to make some career changes, this is the year to do it. I can just see that, you know, the Tower reversed is also saying, like, if you keep starting over and you're not really correcting the core problem, then it's going to keep coming back, especially anything that has to do with your security. So the Judgment card is kind of saying, like, do you want to clear this once and for all? Is this really the way that you want things to be? Be careful with your words this month, because I do feel like it can have a tendency to backfire on you with this Knight of Wands, Knight of Swords reversed. That can be something coming across as if, like, you know, it comes off the wrong way. And especially if you've got any personal planets in Scorpio, it can seem a little bit more intense, because Scorpios have a tendency to be all or nothing. So don't get too ahead of yourself. Somebody said total revamping. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and it's also about your perception and how you're able to tune into things before the tower falls. So it's like, if you're starting to see a situation in your life getting out of hand, where you feel like you have no control, it's about taking control before it just totally implodes. Because the Tower reversed, believe it or not, I believe is much better than it upright. Because when it's upright, you know, it's this impending thing that's coming. If the Tower is reversed, it means the Tower's already fallen. We're already aware of what structure is not working and where we need to go and do the overhaul. It's just kind of saying, like, it's better that you just take care of it now and nip it in the butt. That has to do also with 6th house matters. So it's like, if you need to make that change in your diet, if you need to go and get some chores and some things done around the house, if you need to knock out some stuff that is busy work that you haven't been wanting to do, then get a hold of it, get somebody to help you, and make the initiative and commit to making this change. So then we have Sag, and the conflict is between your 5th house and your 2nd house. So the new moon is in your 5th house. So for a lot of Sagittarians, it's them deciding what new creative seeds they're planting. It has to do also with children and whether or not you're deciding to do the kid thing. And because the conflict is with your 2nd house, I could totally see a lot of Sagittarians being like, oh my God, there's a lot of, you know, financial stuff going into taking care of my children and managing my children. So some of you with Sag placement may be looking at you know, what your financial situation is and what you can afford versus what you're really capable of doing. And so it's not just about having kids. It can be that you're just noticing that you're having to budget a little bit better prior to the summer for your children and child management. It can also be what creative endeavors and new creative projects and art projects you're wanting to start, and really getting an idea of the budget, because with Saturn moving through and aspecting, you know, your second house with Mars and Pluto, it's like you really want to be paying attention now in the next 2 years to your budgeting and what you're spending. Where is your money going? You know, especially in regards to, you know, the total amount that your family may be bringing in. Now, for people who aren't dealing with children, it's also having to do with, like I said, you know, getting the money that you need to be able to supply your creative endeavors. So for many Sag risings, they're wanting to get back into their creative stuff. They're just trying to figure out a healthy way of being able to budget it and budgeting in general. I want you to pay especially close attention to what's happening at the end of the month, because if there are any financial hangups or anything like that, it's going to come up. You're going to see it very quickly, and you're going to be aware of what you need to take care of. Now, the fifth house is also what you do independently. So be aware that, you know, your creative forces or your creative juices are very necessary this month. So mini Sag and Sag rising, it's important for you, even if it's a simple investment, to just be painting or to be drawing or to be doing something creative, perhaps working with metal, perhaps working with fire or molding something or creating something might be enough just to take the edge off for the time being. It might be new investments that you're potentially making also into wanting to learn new creative things. So pay close attention to that. Okay, it's interesting because it looks like some Sages might be, number one, seeking a teacher or seeking some kind of new creative endeavor, and they're needing to learn more about it. So it's they like read up, learn more about that. I say that because the Hierophant's coming up. The other thing is it looks like a lot of Sages are working through some emotional stuff right now. I got the 3 of Swords, the Page of Pentacles, and the 10 of Pentacles. So for Sages, if you're kind of feeling like emotionally at a loss, maybe you're going through a breakup, maybe you've split from somebody, maybe you're feeling lonely, maybe you're just dealing with some rocky stuff emotionally right now, the Page of Pentacles and the 10 of Pentacles is invest in yourself. That's the best investment you can make. So even though it might be challenging to deal with some of the things that are going on emotionally, I highly recommend taking the energy and putting it back into yourself and keeping yourself mobile and putting yourself in motion, and make sure that you're creating, because that's actually going to make you feel a lot better. Remember, your second house is about your personal value and your worth. So you're going to be rebuilding your self-worth just by being like, hey, look what I created. You know, I made this. This is something that I'm investing in. This is something I'm working on. But I think that that's going to give you a lot more security. And it's very possible that, you know, you're starting projects and working on projects that can be very much moving in the direction of like what you would like to be selling, or what you would like to be investing in, or what you would like to be creating an income from. So there might be something that comes from that this month. All right, so now we're moving into Capricorn. Okay, Capricorn, so this is a new moon that's going to be in your 4th house. And there's conflict between your 1st and your 4th. So my mind immediately goes to the fact that you really want to pay attention to the end of the month when you have, you know, actually the 15th through the end of the month, when you're having all of this craziness potentially happening in your home. And with Saturn and other planets in Capricorn, it's like you may be more responsible than usual for your home and family. For some of you, maybe you're realizing that you want to move into a new place, and the retrograde has shown you like where you need more space or where you need a new home, or maybe you're saying goodbye and you're choosing to buy something new, or you know, you're going through shifts which require you, because of changes in your relationship, to get into a new space. Capricorns are just like really doing a lot of heavy lifting. So hang in there, Capricorns, but realize that whatever chaos is coming up for you emotionally, because the 4th house is your emotions, on top of what's happening in your 1st house, it's just to give you more space. So if there are things happening, especially I see a lot of like 4th house Aries, you want to be really careful with open flames. With this transit, you want to be very careful with your electricity. There can be issues with stuff going out, power going out, and nobody wants to fix things, or nobody wants to unscrew light bulbs and change them, or make these changes in the home that need to be made, and it all falls on you. So there may be a little bit more of a frustration this month with feeling like, okay, I have to be the one to take care of everything. The cards that I got for you are, yeah, looks like that some of you guys are just outgrowing your space. So I got 9 of Wands, 8 of Wands, 10 of Wands. So that's a lot of wands. That's a lot of movement. That's a lot of like, maybe you're moving, maybe you're realizing you need to move, maybe you're having conflict with people who you're living with. And part of that is because, remember, Capricorn, you are evolving so quickly with all of these planets in Capricorn. Like if you're having conflict with people you live with, it's either because you need to change or you need to be putting that energy into cleaning, revamping, organizing, purging your home. That's another way that you can deal with this energy. But I kind of see some conflict going on in the home. So be aware that part of it can be because you have a lot more going on energetically than usual. And when all these planets show up in Capricorn, you all of a sudden turn into like beast mode and you just want to get things done. But it may not go over well with other people. So be aware that there is some room for some conflict here later this month if you're not careful. Okay, so then we have Aquarius. So Aquarius, this is your 3rd house. That's where the new moon is going to be. And there is a little bit of conflict between your 3rd house and your 12th house. So basically what I'm looking at is what's going on an intuitive level, how you are picking up things intuitively. And it's really interesting because you might be picking up on something about a sibling. You might be having some really precognitive dreams. You may be downloading a lot of information. The 12th house has to do with your subconscious and what's going on that realm. And the 3rd house is how you communicate. So it looks like you might be taking new steps to communicate more about things you're picking up on in the future. So if you have a decent relationship with a sibling, that actually may be improving and it may be growing and you might be learning more from a sibling. You might be communicating a lot more of your fears and getting them out in the open so you can work through them and dealing with that. You might also be hashing over something that's a bit secretive. I see the 12th house is something that you want to keep hidden and that wants to remain hidden, but the 3rd house is like it's you're feeling like you need to talk about it. So for Aquarian placement, if you're feeling like guilty or if you're feeling like something needs to come up or you need to get something off your chest, you may have some stuff that keeps coming up and keeps nipping you in the backside to try to get you to talk about it and to release something that's been bothering you for a little while. What I'm seeing here that's coming up is it looks more so like emotional distress issues more than anything. The other thing that I'm looking at here is the Lovers are coming up reversed. So that kind of tells me that there may be some mixed feelings. You're feeling kind of conflicted. You're going back and forth between 2 situations, 2 people, 2 problems. And what I think is that you need a little bit more time. Allow it to have actually probably about a period of a week because what I keep getting are 7s. So I think that you need to let that sit for a little bit. I'm also seeing like you really need to be balancing out what's going on with you on an emotional level. So like if you're having some real emotional challenges that are happening where you're feeling like, oh, I have to make a decision right now, I would actually say, no, you don't have to do that. There may be some kind of conflict going on with this other person where they're unwilling to take responsibility for certain situations and they're not communicating that to you. So there's some emotional distress. A lot of this is kind of like the elephant in the room and whatever, you know, you and a partner aren't really talking about or you and a sibling aren't really talking about but need to talk about. There's going to be the potential for there to be surprises this month because I think that with the 12th house, it's about expecting the unexpected. So you might have precognitive dreams as well. Moving on, now we have Pisces. Pisces, this is a new moon in your 2nd house, and it's squaring off with the 11th house. So in my opinion, this has more so to do with, you know, you taking the initiative to get things kick-started, really focusing on what's going on with how you're able to generate money or how you're able to generate security. Remember that the 2nd house is not only what we value, but what we are creating ourselves. So for a lot of Pisces, I think that they're looking for financial security, but they may be kind of frustrated because they've been trying to collaborate with other people. And maybe you guys with that 11th house square, you're not seeing eye to eye with friends. Maybe you're wanting to do work with friends, but friends aren't necessarily showing up and they're not stable. Maybe you're looking for security through friendships, but you're just feeling like you're not quite getting it. I also feel like there may be a sense of, you know, you having to make a little bit more of an investment and you're having to spend a little bit money to make a little bit more money. And a lot of Pisces are going through this right now where they're trying to kind of figure out what the plan is and where they're going long term. Let's take a look at what comes up. First card that comes up is the Temperance card. Second card that comes up is the Hangman, and the third card that comes up is the Empress. So Temperance, Hangman, and the Empress. This is 3 majors. This is also talking about things kind of being out of balance right now. It's talking about bringing it back into center. The Hangman is feeling kind of stuck, like, okay, I can't quite make a decision yet. This is also talking very significantly to Pisces personally with that Hangman sign. And the Empress is saying bringing it back to center, but it's also talking about considering making new ventures. The second house is also associated with beauty. So what I would say is that some Pisces might be looking at making some investments to their appearance, to their clothes, things like that, how they're coming across. They might be having to spend a little bit more money, for example, on clothes to go to job interviews, or if you're a performer, you're having to spend a little bit more money on beauty and things like that. The Empress is also associated with music. And so what it's kind of saying is that you need to kind of come back to center and rebalance a little bit. So there may be a need for you to do a little bit more self-care, a little bit more pampering, things like that this month. But I think that you're kind of tuning into opportunities to make more money, and you might be doing that through connecting and networking with people. I would just say you probably need new people. I don't think you're going to go back to old people. I think this is new people who are coming in that are more so kind of in alignment with what your vision is. But with the Temperance card reversed, it's saying things aren't quite in balance yet. Not all of the right elements have shown up yet. You want to think of it kind of like it's this perfection that comes together when all of the elements are in balance. And so things are still kind of coming together. And I think you want to wait a little bit longer to let that kind of resonate. But definitely look at your financial situation and maybe perhaps where you can be incorporating technology into any which way that you're looking at making, a new source of income. I think that's everybody. I'm taking a look at the chat now and seeing what people are saying. Somebody asked questions about something odd happening with the sun influencing in a different way the other planets. Any idea about that? I mean, essentially what you really want to look for is where the sun is coming into squares with Pluto, and where we are facing some challenges that more so have to do with authority figures in our life, and whether or not we are going to be very Aries about it, where we're going to be reactionary, where we're going to be warriors, or where we are choosing to use our mental strengths rather than our physical strengths to kind of fight back. This is a new moon that's associated with fire. So one of the best things that I would tell you guys is with new moons, people get kind of confused. Like the day before the new moon or the night before the new moon is a black moon. That's not a moon to be, doing intention setting or anything like that. A black moon is used for banishing. It's used for hexing. It's used for removing things and doing darker forms of magic. So I really want you guys to actually be setting your intentions from the new moon moving forward. So you actually want to be doing probably a lot of your intention setting as early as like the 16th, or at least that's when I would be doing it, because I don't want to do it while the moon is at its darkest. So wait until, later in the day of the new moon, on the 15th, or be doing it on the 16th. And something very simple for an Aries new moon is to actually take a piece of paper. Now I like to work with parchment paper, or I like to work with natural paper. So if you guys have another natural form of paper that you want to use, you can use that. If you're kind of in a pinch or in a bind, something else that's really great for magic is to use brown paper bag material. So you can actually take brown paper bag and you can write your intentions on it. Remember that working with fire, we're creating boundaries, we're creating protection, we are setting intention, we're setting it ablaze. So in a very safe manner, because I don't want a bunch of emails talking about how a dresser caught on fire, I'd like you guys to take a cauldron or a pot or a metal pan, something that you can drop it into. Another option that's relatively safe are those wish papers that you can buy and you can write on, and then you can light it on fire, and then it evaporates, it kind of floats up, and then it just turns into, I don't know, poof, it just disappears. So if you're feeling a little hesitant about burning things, that might be a good option. But you want to write your intentions for what you want to bring in. See, the new moon is about new seeds and new intentions. So by now, most of us have a really clear idea of what is standing in our way. If you don't, trust me, you're going to figure this out in the next week. Somebody said flash paper. Thank you. That flash paper, wish paper. But I would take my piece of paper in pen, because it's permanent, or permanent marker, and I would write, you know, I will, I am accomplishing, I am creating. I am is a really great statement for Aries, because I am very much resonates with Mars and the first house of what I am. So if you are going to be brave, if you are going to be abundant, if you are going to be determined, if you are going to be committed, all of these things are really great I am phrases for Aries season. And so what I would say is, don't focus so much on what you are releasing. That's not really what we're looking at here. It's where we are building and focusing on a phrase that is very powerful for ourselves. And with magic, we want to speak in the right now, not that I will create or I will get there. It's no, I am right now. So remember, when you're phrasing this, that you want to be finding your power statement. You can sit with it, you can meditate with it, you can hold on to it. And then once you set that intention, you want to burn it, drop it in the pot and let it burn and let it release into the universe, setting our intention. Another option is to take a red candle, because red is associated with Aries. It's associated with Mars. You can also create a very beautiful space where if you're into having any kinds of ritual antlers or anything that has to do with, you guys can't see it, but I have my little, can you see that? My little Aries, my little ram up there. And you set that somewhere in symbolism, you know, to be symbolic of Aries, for that flash energy of something new and new life coming in. So you want to go and identify where Aries is in your chart. Listen back to your sun or your moon or your rising and find out where specifically you're setting that new intention. Once you have already let that go, then you want to see how things go. Remember that we want to see an entire lunar cycle before you might start seeing some of these things coming true, or even as long as waiting until the full moon that's going to be in Aries in 6 months. So you've got a 6-month working time. Because it's conjunct Uranus, I think that there is a lot of need for magic on this new moon, because Uranus is very much the magician, and is as above, so below. So some of you guys might want to be working with fire agate. Some of you guys may be wanting to work with, I'm actually personally choosing, what is it called? I can't even think now. I'm looking right at it. Working with my, what is it called? I'm like drawing a blank right now. I could show it to you guys and you guys would know what it is, but it's the magician stone. I'm like drawing a blank. I have it all over my house. It'll come to me. Give me a second. But those are the kinds of stones of manifestation, and working with different variation of the astral and bringing it down into this realm. That's really what we want to be working on. So if at any time you're working with fire, please be careful. You're more than welcome to work with any herbs that are associated with Mars. Me personally, I'm going to write my piece of paper. I'm going to set a red candle, and I'm going to focus on what's going on, because that's my moon. So try your odds at taking chances, you know, setting intentions that may be a little above and beyond what you're giving yourself capable credit of doing. You might surprise yourself. And as always, you know, pay close attention to what's happening around the time of a new moon, because especially this one around the time, the end of the month, when we're starting to get ready for that full moon that's going to be coming in Scorpio, things are going to get a little crazy. If you want to book a personal reading with me, you may do so if you check out my link below. But I'll be back here sometime before next week talking about the American birth chart and discussing what's coming up for the week ahead. So until next time, I will see all of you guys very soon. And I appreciate you guys being here, and enjoy your new moon. You know, enjoy everything that's also going on with Mercury going direct. Pay close attention when Mercury goes direct. It's very often that we get a very significant message, and there's it's very interesting that it's happening the same day as the new moon, because I feel like it's giving you that last minute message that you need right before you set these personal intentions for yourself. I will talk to all of you guys very, very soon. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you guys for those of you in the chat, and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye-bye.